we work in tragedy all the time, right? You know, my whole career has been being with tragedies, right? When somebody gets the diagnosis of cancer, when somebody gets the diagnosis of a chronic illness like multiple sclerosis. I mean, it's just one tragedy after another. And why do we want to be doctors? Why do we want to care for people who are suffering tragedies? Because we can help, because we feel like we can help. And that's why we get a good feeling about it. Doctors love gratitude, and these people are the most grateful that I have ever cared for. So that's certainly part of it. That just they just I just get so many thank yous and so many hugs. And I've been a family doctor for a long time. I graduated back from medical school back in 1975, and I wanted to be a full service doctor, cradle to grave, with a focus on women's health, which I did. Then in 2015, when we knew that the law was changing, I just happened to be having a coffee with a research colleague who works in palliative care, and I said, our law is changing next year. Are you going to be providing, we didn't call it MAID then, the assisted deaths? And she said, oh no, our palliative care organization is completely separating themselves from assisted dying. And I said, oh, then they'll need providers. And she said, oh, yes. So I called up a friend who was also an abortion provider and said, hey, palliative care is not going to be doing the work. We better figure out how to get trained and get in there. So in the last 8 years, I have provided hundreds of assisted deaths. The annual report details the percentage of people who get assisted dying in Canada, and the majority are for cancer. And the next most common reasons are organ failure and progressive neurological diseases. And since 2021, we've had the ability to assist in people who have chronic illness instead of terminal illness. And that's still a tiny percentage of assisted dying, according to the statistics. I personally have provided some more of those because, again, there are a number of providers who restrict themselves to what we call track 1, which are the people for whom their natural death is reasonably foreseeable, and fewer of us who are willing to assist people with the chronic conditions. It's incredibly rewarding work, but the challenges come around in things like, most deaths are for completed lives, and people have had cancer for years, and they've been through so many treatments, and they've come around, and the family has come around to the knowledge that they're dying, and they've tell me that they've lived a long, good life, and that they're ready to go. And we have, a patriarch of a family surrounded by their family, and those tend not to involve the severe grief. But when I have to witness a husband saying goodbye to his wife, who is, when they're both middle-aged or even younger, that's, that raw grief right in front is challenging to deal with. You feel it, you feel that kind of deep grief. Sometimes it's just the suffering is so severe that it's hard to even be in the same room as somebody who's suffering so severely. But then, of course, I get to end that suffering, which is good. First of all, we have a process. There is the written request that has to be witnessed by an independent witness. There's the two clinicians, doctors or nurse practitioners, who do an assessment. During that assessment, we just go through the whole list of the criminal law, It's not very hard to figure out when you've read the medical file that they're over 18 and that they're eligible for medical insurance, etc. All those eligibility criteria. And then what we're looking for is that they truly understand their condition, that their options, and that they understand assisted death. And that they do. We have some documentation on the grievous and irremediable condition. All of them, whether track 1 or track 2, have to have grievous and irremediable medical condition, and they must be in an advanced state of decline and capability. So we have to go through those. Then we have this fascinating talk with them about how they want to die and what a good death means to them. And so we're asking questions that I never asked before. We had assisted dying. I say, where would you like to die? When would you like to die? Who are you going to invite to your death? And some people have thought a lot about it and they can just rattle it off, and others just like, can't. Oh, you mean, well, what do other people do? And I'll tell them that some people, they invite everybody and they have really a living wake. So a party at the time they die. Most people have, if they have something like that, it's before, and I don't get to see it. It's the night before, for example. And then some people say, I don't want anybody there. And I say, are you sure that your wife will be okay with that? I mean, wouldn't she want to be with you? And can we talk? Oh, she doesn't want to see me die. And then we have these conversations about what it's like to be with somebody you love when they're dying. And then on the day, I will have picked up the drugs. So the clinician has to pick up the drugs themselves from the pharmacist. And I bring them to the home or the hospital or hospice, wherever we are going. And I come and say, are you sure this is what you want to do today? And I get to meet the grandkids that I haven't met yet, or whoever they've invited to the place, and go through again what they can all expect. And then we'll have a nurse there, because I don't do my own IVs, to put in the IV. And I will, when everybody's ready, and I learned from my Dutch colleagues about choreography. Okay, so who wants to sit on her right side and who on her left, and the others maybe want to be, and the dog, where the dog goes, and then I try to get out of the way, and I can do that if I've got an extension tube for my IV. And then when everybody's ready, I say, okay, ready to go to sleep. And I give the first medication, which is a sedative, that people go into a very natural sleep. And then we give the general anesthetic that puts people into a very deep coma. And then I give the medications that stop the breathing and stop the heart. And I warn the surrounding people that that's when they can expect the color to change. Generally very calm and peaceful. The moment of death doesn't exist, but doctors have to pronounce deaths, as you've seen from TV. So we mark down a time, and we usually do that based on cessation of cardiac activity. So the whole process for me, from the time I start injecting until I call that it's done, is about 5 minutes. I think both my abortion work and my assisted dying work have to do with honoring people's wishes, empowering people to have control over their own lives, and that's it's wonderful that I have the opportunity to do that. This particular work, I just get to have these great conversations with people. Like, what really matters to you? What do you have to get done before you die? What do you think? What would you like to do on the day of your death? These are amazing conversations to have with people. The most common thing that happens is that family members try to hold it together for their loved one, and then as soon as they know that she's not listening anymore, she can't hear anymore, then they start crying. So I'm kind of watching for those sorts of reactions around the room. Just being there with people. I have been at a lot of non-made deaths. I know what the ends are like, and not interested in that. No, I mean, it means that you can skip out when you're still you. Normally, at the end of life, at the end of a cancer death, people are usually in coma, right? And the weeks before that, they haven't been eating or drinking or moving and have no longer been socially present. Maybe their family is there, but they're not having conversations anymore. Whereas my MAID patients are like I would want to be, still being able to say, and the last words I get to hear all the time, I love you, are by far the most common last words. And, I want to be in a situation, if at all possible, when I'm ready to die, that I could have my family around and I could say, I love you and thank you for, making my life so good. And goodbye.